Let's talk right now about this executive order. It's late. It's Friday. I don't know if anybody's going to be here. Hopefully, you'll see it at some point. I know that I've been doing a lot of content and after a silent period, but now I'm going to be posting on here instead of on LinkedIn. So now you're going to get a lot more content. But uh, there's a lot to say about this executive order, and I'm going to get into a lot more on Tuesday. This is actually going to be part of a series because this is a pretty big issue. The first thing I want to say is just what this executive order is. It's a really, really poorly drafted document that purports to allow um, like banks, non-banks, fintech, et cetera, encouraging them to get on the digital asset train and remove regulatory, um, uh, uh, barriers to getting them involved. That's not actually what it does. There's a lot of other stuff happening here. I'm just going to focus on one area because it's really troubling, but note that there's a lot more involved. And I'm not going to focus on those right now because I want to keep this discussion limited and short enough that people actually see it. But it's actually, there's a lot more to say about this. And like I said, this is going to be part of a series because we have to talk about how the other crypto pieces, the other regulations that come out, they all make a lot more sense in light of this executive order. So I just want to note that. The next thing that I want to say is what's actually happening here. This vaguely worded thing with a lot of definitions that aren't clear. There's something really interesting happening here. And one of the things I want to note is something that's about halfway in. They start talking about master accounts. And for those of you who recall, that was a big deal with Custodia. Custodia tried to get a master account from the Fed and couldn't get one because it dealt primarily with crypto. That was a big issue. There was a lot of litigation. And this one has this issue about uh, a master account and saying that these fintech companies or financial related companies that deal with crypto should be entitled to master accounts. What does that even mean, and what would that do? So first, um, I want to note that uh, master accounts are these things that basically get you direct contact with the Fed, right? I've done a video before about how the Fed works, but one of the things is that it essentially gives you access to the Fed's overnight rate, which is one thing to remember, right? So it gives you the best, lowest possible access to loans. It also gives you access to the repo market. We're not going to talk about these things in this particular video, but these are things that you need to remember. And you avoid the fees of settlement of these intermediate correspondent banks, right? So you don't have to have an intermediary bank whenever you're transacting if you have a master account, you can just directly deal with the Fed. You can get interest rates on your reserves. There's all sorts of benefits that you get once you have a master account. Here, the big focus, there's a bunch of vague wording, but the one focus that they have is this idea of the master account. And let's think about who is getting a master account. Non-bank companies that have the technological means to offer or support financial products or services that are engaged in digital asset related services. And then this whole idea of novel financial activities, which is weirdly undefined. That's very strange for an executive order. It's not pinned to any statute or anything like that. Um, who qualifies in this? especially when they have this weird add-on of DeFi. Again, a whole other area I'm not going to even talk about right now. There's a whole bunch of stuff we can talk about there. Who qualifies? World Liberty Financial. World Liberty Financial falls right into this. And if you were going to use another case after Custodia, World Liberty falls right in as the next case that you would use in giving a master account to. And what would that do, right? So first we have to talk about a few issues here. That this is beyond the issues of self-dealing. This moves into emoluments, right? So even though the president um, you know, uh, is exempt from a lot of the ethics rules, right? There's still a lot of other rules that the president is subject to, and there's political and legal challenges that are involved with this particular thing. And this particular action would be disqualified by basically any other federal officer, but because it's the president, it seems to be okay. But it's not really okay, right? So there's this is the odd issue. So let's talk about why World Liberty Financial would even want this. What would they get? So they launched this coin USD1, which is a stable coin. And remember, there's this preceding past stablecoin act called Genius, which again, we're going to talk about. But this is a stable coin that's backed by treasuries and dollar deposits. And the Trump family owns 75% of World Liberty Financial's equity and their token allocation. So here's the problem that USD1 has right now, that they don't have a Fed master account, right? So they have to settle through a correspondent bank, and they pay fees on every single transaction. And this depends on the bank's willingness to deal with those deal with crypto, and they have to deal with payment rails, which have been previously unstable, depending on the government and power, etc. And they operate with T+1 or T+2 settlement, which takes a long time. They've got vulnerability to the that intermediary bank terminating them. And that's a huge risk that others have faced before. Now, look at what happens if they get a Fed master account. They get real-time settlement on Fed rails. And that's the same finality as bank money, right? So they get real-time settlement. That they're now independent of bank relationships. That makes them competitive with USDC and USDT. Now remember, USDT made $6 billion in like the first half of last year. So there's a huge amount of money to be had in these kinds of stable coins. And a lot of it is because they make money off of the money in custody. So it's not like um, being able to be in a competitor to one of these is just a nice thing to be. It's enormously profitable, right? And sorry, I don't know if I lost you guys. USDT and USDC do not have that settlement finality, right? They don't have that master account. And then essentially, it would also make them eligible for these overnight rates if they used USD1 as collateral for lending, etc. Now, imagine how much liquidity that opens up. That's incredible. And then one other thing that I want to point out here. If USD1 gets Fed rails and becomes the dominant stable coin, especially in international transactions. And I'm reading a bunch of notes I have because I'm really tired. It's late and I've had a long day and I'm still not done with today. But the Trump family gets a private percentage of global dollar settlement. Think about that kind of money. That money is enormous. That's not stable coin money, right? That's world reserve currency money. That's what they're getting. So there are explicit links to this. There are specific people that are actually named that show how this link works and which countries it goes through and how this works. So I'm going to make that next video. I'm just going to break this up so it's a little easier to understand. Oh, someone's asking, please repeat that. The part that, okay, so the USD rails, that if USD1 gets fed rails, right? So if they're able to have this master account, then and be the dominant stablecoin. So not because that stablecoins now for banks, et cetera, for international transactions, people can use these stablecoins in transactions. So if they basically get a master account and are able to be used in all of these international transactions, then essentially they're getting a piece of global international transactions on the level of the global like the world reserve currency. As money moves, because it's the world reserve currency, money is moving, dollars are moving constantly, right? And it's expensive to move dollars. So that's one of the chief use cases for crypto, is that it's significantly cheaper to move dollars. Now, banks have been using a different coin, not stable coins, right? They've been using these deposit coins, but they may use stable coins if stable coins become significantly cheaper. When would they do that? If they have this master account, right? That makes the cost of using stable coins cheaper, right? Because they don't have to go through an intermediary account. That cuts the cost to the end user. So if the USD1 coin is the stable coin that all the banks are using to transact money back and forth, right? And all of that money, essentially, those coins are all traveling. But remember, dollars are being held in custody somewhere. And all of that money in custody is basically being held, right? It's supposed to be held one-to-one, but what really happens? That money is actually being put into interest-bearing accounts, and all of that interest goes to the custodian and the owners of the equity. And who's that? The Trump family, right? And the Witkoffs. So that's who's getting all the money from this. That's how it works. That's how Tether, the people who hold the equity of Tether, not Tether coins, the equity of the company of Tether, they are rich. They can buy banks. They can buy companies anywhere they want. Why? Because all of the dollars that go into Tether then get loaned out like a bank, right? They get loaned out. And that profit comes only to the company of Tether. It does not go back to the holders of Tether coin. Same thing with USD1, but on a much bigger scale. Does this make sense? I hope. Okay. So I was told to make these videos because it's so complicated, under 10 minutes, and I didn't do it at all. I did it in 15. So I'm going to try and leave it here. The next video is going to focus on the connection between this executive order and the other acts that have been passed and are floating around, and how we can actually see how any version of the Clarity Act actually works in favor of this exact thing. So like now we can start seeing how this whole picture works together. And most people in blockchain just get so excited about crypto. And I keep looking at these bills saying, this is a ridiculous bill. This is a ridiculous bill. This is a ridiculous bill. It makes no sense. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And everybody says, no, this is so great. This is so wonderful. This is going to open everything up. What gets opened up? Nothing, right? Nothing. What's gotten better? Nothing. Nothing gets better. But everybody says, no, it's going to be so wonderful. And now we see why. This is nothing really to do with crypto. This has nothing to do with blockchain or even finance, right? As a whole. This has to do with one very specific thing. And that's what we're going to be talking about. So I hope all of you have a wonderful weekend, and I'm going to keep going with this. I hope the video is helpful. I'm not sure if videos or writing is better. So I'm going to just try mixing it up. Um, and I'm starting a YouTube also. And so you guys can see how that works. I'm just not sure what channel is best, and we'll just keep working on it. So thanks very much. I appreciate all of your comments, and any questions you have, you're always free to connect with me. I try to be as open as possible, and look forward to speaking again. I think my next video is coming on Tuesday. I hope you have a wonderful holiday weekend. Take care.